You already have what you need. The body is not your enemy. The body is your ally, but it will only support you if you begin to meet it with respect. When you bring awareness to your movement, something changes. The way your foot touches the ground, the rhythm of your breath, the tension in your face, they all come into view. And once you see, you can change. You can soften, you can realign, you can move differently, not out of habit, but out of understanding. This is the quiet power of awareness. It does not shout, it does not force, but it reveals what was hidden. So I ask you, when was the last time you moved and felt every part of that movement? When was the last time you sat down and felt the way your spine supported you, how your body contacted the earth, how the air entered your nose and gently expanded your lungs? These are not small things. These are the foundations of life. They are always happening, but without awareness, we forget. In our forgetting, we become disconnected from the present moment. And in that disconnection, we lose access to the healing power that was within us all along. So don't chase movement. Don't treat the body like a machine to be fixed. Treat it like a friend to be understood. And through that understanding, you will begin to experience something very rare in this world, peace that arises not because you reached somewhere, but because you finally arrived here. This is where healing begins. The body is always speaking to you. From the moment you wake until the moment you sleep, and even while you sleep, the body sends messages. But most people have forgotten how to listen. They wait until discomfort becomes pain, until tension becomes injury, until tiredness becomes collapse. They wait for the body to scream before they respond. But wisdom does not live in extremes. It lives in subtlety. And the more awareness you bring into your daily life, the more you begin to hear the body before it shouts. Pain is not the enemy, neither is fatigue. These are not flaws in your system, they are signals. The body is not punishing you when it hurts. It is trying to guide you back into balance. But if your mind is distracted, if you move through your day unconsciously, then you miss the signs. You override the signals. And the body, with great patience, continues to whisper until one day it has no choice but to break down. We must learn again how to listen, not just with the ears, but with the skin, the breath, the bones. When you move with awareness, you begin to feel more. Not just physically, but emotionally, mentally. Movement opens doors to parts of yourself that words cannot reach. Through awareness, you become sensitive not only to your body's needs, but to your thoughts, your reactions, your habit. You notice how your shoulders tighten when you're under pressure. You feel how shallow your breathing becomes when you're anxious. You become aware of how you hold tension in your jaw when you're hiding anger, or how your posture collapses when you doubt yourself. These things are not accidents. The body holds everything the mind refuses to process, and if you do not listen, the body will be forced to carry more than it was ever meant to hold. This is why awareness is the key. It is not about controlling the body, it is about entering into a dialogue with it. When you feel tired, do you know why? Is it physical exhaustion or emotional depletion? When something aches, do you pause or do you push through without question? The body will always tell you what it needs, but only if you are quiet enough to hear. Movement can be a tool to access this inner knowing, not intense frantic movement, but slow, grounded, intentional movement. When you move with attention, you begin to feel where you are imbalanced, where you are resisting, where you are disconnected. And through that awareness, healing becomes possible. Not because someone fixed you, but because you remembered how to care for yourself. You do not need to become a master of any technique. You do not need expensive equipment or complex routines. What you need is space. Space to feel, space to observe, space to respond rather than react. This space is created when you slow down and bring attention to what your body is telling you. It may be asking for rest. It may be asking for nourishment. It may be asking for stillness or for gentle motion. But you must be present enough to hear it. Too many people live cut off from their bodies. They see the body as an object to manipulate, a problem to solve, a vehicle to push harder, but the body is not separate from who you are. It is your home, and like any home, it reflects how you treat it. If you ignore it, it begins to fall apart. But if you listen, truly listen, it becomes a sanctuary. In silence, the body speaks loudest. In stillness, you hear what was always there. And slowly, a new relationship begins to form. One built on trust, not on fear or frustration. You begin to trust the signals. You learn to work with your body, not against it. You recognize that discomfort is a guidepost, not an obstacle. That tension is not a punishment, but a request for your attention. This kind of awareness transforms not only how you move, but how you live. You stop rushing through life. You begin to pay attention to small things, how you sit, how you stand, how you carry yourself. You become more compassionate with yourself because you understand that the body has been carrying your story, your entire life, every moment without rest, every moment without rest. And now, finally, you are learning to honor it. There is no destination to reach. The goal is not to perfect the body, but to reconnect with it. When you cultivate this awareness, movement becomes medicine because it is no longer something you do to your body. It becomes something you do with it. A partnership, a conversation, a remembering. You are not here to conquer the body. You are here to understand it. And when you do, you will realize the body was never trying to slow you down. It was trying to bring you home. We live in a time where speed is glorified. Fast results, fast communication, fast progress. But what is often forgotten is that speed without direction leads to exhaustion. Just because something moves quickly does not mean it moves wisely. Just because a body looks strong does not mean it is grounded. Power is not in how fast you move. So, real power is in how deeply you move and how present you are in each step. Slowness is not weakness. In fact, it is the opposite. Slowness requires patience. It requires presence. And it requires the ability to remain centered even when the world around you is rushing. This is not easy. But it is deeply transformative. When you slow down your movements, everything is revealed. The small habits you never noticed, the way you breathe, the way your mind constantly tries to move ahead of your body. You begin to see how distracted you have become. How often you live in the future or the past, rarely in this moment. Slowness is a mirror. It reflects not only your posture, but your inner state. Through slow, conscious movement, you train more than your muscles. You train your awareness. You build a connection with your body that is not based on force, but on listening. You start to notice where your strength flows freely and where it is blocked. And in this noticing, you begin to shift. You begin to align. You begin to grow from the inside out. There is a discipline in moving slowly. Anyone can rush through a movement without noticing how it feels. But to move with precision, to hold your balance, to feel every joint, every muscle, this takes courage. It takes patience to hold a position, not because it looks good, but because it teaches you something about yourself. In slowness, you face yourself. And in facing yourself, you begin to build true strength. This is the foundation of all mindful practices, whether it is Qigong Tai Chi, walking meditation, or even simply sitting in silence. The external action may seem small, even still, but internally, there is a depth of focus, a clarity of intention, and a rooted presence that no fast movement can provide. Slowness is where control begins. Anyone can act with speed when they are confident, but can you remain stable when things slow down? Can you still breathe calmly, still maintain your focus, still stay connected? This is real mastery. Not the ability to do many things quickly, but the ability to do one thing, slowly, consciously, completely. In this way, you train more than your body. You train your patience. You train your nervous system. You teach your mind to stop running from discomfort. Because when you slow down, the discomfort has nowhere to hide, but neither does your strength. What was hidden begins to emerge, not through force, but through presence. And this strength is not just physical. It is a quiet inner stability, a calm that does not depend on external conditions. When you learn to move slowly and mindfully, you become less reactive. You don't rush to respond. You don't get pulled into the noise. You begin to live with intention, not just habit. Many people fear slowing down because they associate it with falling behind. But in truth, slowing down is how you catch up with yourself. It is how you begin to move in harmony with your own rhythm, not the rhythm of the world's distraction. It is how you come back into alignment with life itself. There is something sacred about deliberate movement. When every gesture has purpose, every breath has awareness, you begin to experience a different kind of power. Not the explosive kind that fades quickly, but a steady, grounded strength that stays with you, in your spine, in your breath, in your presence. This is the strength you carry into your daily life, in your walk, in your posture, in your voice. You begin to move from a place of knowing, not from fear or hurry, and people feel it without words, without explanation, because presence has a weight. Stillness has a language, and those who carry inner stability bring peace to any space they enter, so do not be afraid to move slowly. In fact, be willing to, because in that slowness, you will begin to feel again. You will begin to hear the body, to settle the mind, and to connect with something that was always within you, but buried under speed. To move slowly is not to move less. It is to move with more depth, more attention, more life. And that is where real strength lives. Not every movement you make is a reflection of what is happening within you. The way you sit, the way you walk, the way you breathe, none of it is random. Whether you realize it or not, your body is constantly expressing the state of your mind. Movement in this way becomes a mirror, and the more aware you become, the clearer that reflection gets. When your thoughts are scattered, your body moves without rhythm. When you are holding onto fear, your shoulders rise, your chest tightens. When you are angry, your jaw clenches, your steps become heavy. These are not just physical behaviors. They are echoes of your inner world. If you pay attention, the body will show you everything you need to know about what is happening in your mind. This is why we say that awareness reveals the truth. Without awareness, you move unconsciously. You repeat the same gestures, the same reactions, the same patterns without ever seeing them. But once you become aware, once you begin to observe yourself with stillness and sincerity, you start to see clearly. You begin to notice, how do I move when I'm anxious? How does my breath change when I'm under pressure? How do I carry myself when I feel disconnected? So disconnected. You begin to realize that the external is not separate from the internal. There is no line between the mind and the body. What you think, you feel. What you feel, you express. What you express, you reinforce. It becomes a loop. And if you remain unaware, you stay caught in that loop. You keep reacting, keep compensating, keep tightening. Not because something is wrong with you, but because you haven't paused long enough to witness it. This is the power of conscious movement. It slows down that loop. It gives you space to interrupt the automatic, to change the pattern. You begin to recognize the difference between a body that is tense and one that is grounded. You notice how one breath can shift your entire state, and slowly your movements become more than just functional. They become intentional. And when you move with awareness, every gesture becomes an opportunity to understand yourself. You begin to move not out of habit, but out of choice. And this simple shift from unconscious to conscious changes everything. It brings freedom, because now you are not just reacting to life. You are participating in it fully, mindfully. Even something as simple as standing becomes a practice. How do your feet connect to the ground? Is your weight balanced? Are you leaning forward into the future or sinking backward into the past? Are your muscles doing more than necessary? Is your breath flowing freely, or are you holding it without realizing? These questions are not for analysis. They are for awareness. They bring you back to this moment, to what is real, to what is true right now. In this space of observation, you begin to see with clarity. You start to witness how your mental states influence your body, and how your body can also influence your mind. It goes both ways. When your posture changes, your mood changes. When your breath deepens, your thoughts slow down. When your movements soften, your heart opens. Now each time you move, ask yourself, what am I expressing right now? What is my body showing me that my mind may not have noticed? You may be surprised by the answers, because the body does not lie. It doesn't have the capacity to pretend. It reveals everything. Your fears, your hopes, your sadness, your joy, all through how you move, how you carry yourself, how you simply are. And when you see these things, not with judgment, but with curiosity and compassion, healing begins. Change begins. You no longer try to hide from your emotions or push them away. Instead, you let the body guide you through them. You allow your awareness to soften the edges of your resistance. And slowly, movement becomes a way to meet yourself more honestly. This is why we don't need to rush through our lives. Every moment is rich with information, rich with insight. Every step can show you something about how you relate to yourself in the world. But you must be willing to look, to listen, to feel. This is not about perfection. It's about presence. It's about presence. When you fall out of alignment, you notice it and you come back. When you feel tension, you acknowledge it and you breathe through it. When you see a pattern that no longer serves you, you make space for something new. This is the work. Not fixing, not forcing, just becoming more honest with yourself. One movement at a time. In the end, awareness is not something you do. It is something you live, It is not a technique to master, but a relationship to cultivate with your breath, with your body, with your mind. Because when you begin to move with awareness, you are no longer just going through life. You are waking up to it.